Welcome to the deep dive. So, you want to get up to speed quickly, really understand things without getting bogged down.
Exactly.
And today, we've got this really interesting document you brought in, mini-election.pdf.
Yeah, it's aimed squarely at senior citizens.
Right. And our mission today is to pull out the key stuff, like why politics matters so much for seniors, according to this source, and what method it suggests for engagement.
And it jumps right in, doesn't it? Part one makes this core argument.
Yeah, it basically says, look, almost everything vital to you as a senior, pensions, healthcare, living costs,
Security, dignity.
it's all fundamentally linked to politics. It's political decisions that shape these things.
Absolutely. And it frames it as a numbers game.
Mm.
Politicians listen when a group votes.
And the argument is that seniors as a group have those numbers, potentially huge power there.
Which is interesting because it also touches on that feeling, that feeling of maybe being powerless or overlooked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it acknowledges that feeling some seniors might have.
But then it immediately contrasts that with the actual potential strength they have in numbers if they vote together.
So that kind of sets up the main question we're digging into based on this source. How can seniors actually use that strength effectively?
How do they go from feeling overlooked to, leveraging that collective power for their own benefit?
Because feeling overlooked is one thing, doing something about it is another.
Right. And that's where the document shifts gears a bit. It starts talking about how to engage.
It mentions traditional methods like protests, but then seems to steer away from them for this group.
Yeah, it brings up some pretty practical points there. Part two talks about suitability, safety.
Things like physical limitations.
Exactly. And maybe, the risks involved, bad weather, potentially unruly crowds, police responses, things that might make protests less safe or accessible for older people.
Okay, that makes sense. So it sees potential downsides to that kind of activism for this specific demographic.
But suggests maybe that's not the most effective or comfortable route for many seniors.
So if not protests on the street, what's the alternative this mini-election.pdf proposes? What's in part three?
Well, it really champions the power of the vote, specifically strategic voting in this upcoming mini election they mentioned.
Strategic voting, meaning
Meaning the advice isn't to vote based on your usual party affiliation. Not this time.
okay. So how should they vote, according to this?
The recommendation is pretty direct. Vote to oppose the current ruling parties or entities. Send a message.
A unified message coming from seniors as a bloc.
Precisely. And it doesn't stop there. It also urges them to get their kids and grandkids involved.
If they're old enough to vote, of course.
Right. Encourage them to vote the same way. The idea is each vote against the status quo adds up and becomes this loud signal.
A signal that the source believes can't just be ignored by those in power.
Yeah, the thinking is that after this mini election, when they analyze the result,
Both the ruling party and the opposition.
they'll see this pattern. They'll have to acknowledge the senior vote acting in concert.
And that's supposed to be the trigger for change.
That's the anticipated outcome, according to the source. That awareness, that demonstrated power, forces them to pay closer attention. It could shift priorities, maybe even lead to real conversations about seniors' issues.
So, summing up the strategy from this document, it's less about loud demonstrations and more about, well, a quiet, coordinated use of the ballot box.
Exactly. In this specific election, use your vote collectively as a tool to demand attention and initiate change.
Hmm.
It's presented as maximizing impact while kind of minimizing personal risk.
It's a fascinating approach. Quiet, strategic, collective action through voting.
A different kind of power.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How can that single individual action, just casting your vote, become such a potentially powerful collective statement for one group if they coordinate, like this source suggests? Something to mull over.
Definitely food for thought.
Okay, that's our deep dive into mini-election.pdf. Thanks for exploring it with us.